Hey, my name is Aajiiqatigiingniq. I now work for Aajiiqatigiingniq Society in researching IQ from a health perspective. And one of the things that we find that we want to reintroduce into Inuit way of regaining their balance is a tool that Inuit people use, or a program that Inuit use, called Aajiiqatigiingniq. You might have heard of it as being consensus building. That's one of the features it may have, but it has many facets. And the way we're trying to use it is to help Inuit people regain through healing and recover from colonization. But we're having to try to establish how it would be used in today's setting. We've studied Inuit way of Aajiiqatigiingniq and how it was used back then. And one of the things that Inuit people, being holistic, is a very interesting part of the program. You can have Aajiiqatigiingniq without a sense of holistic perspective in Inuit culture, but it's actually designed to do really well with Inuit way of thinking, which is from a holistic approach. And one of the reasons that we feel that by researching how Inuit used to maintain and manage things, we realized through research that Aajiiqatigiingniq had been used to make sure that everybody was on the same program, and that any issues that came about were addressed properly, and that it had been designed to be able to accommodate anybody and everybody in a fair, clear way. One of the ways that we've been trying to get Aajiiqatigiingniq back into the system is to again help promote healing from the impact of colonization. So with the Department of Education, they want to help us run a program on restorative justice, and if a person that has gone through the court system is recognized to have Inuit background, we know that by cultural loss, a lot of the imbalance and difficulties people are experiencing today is due to that loss of culture, and that having no support to help them throughout their lives, their foundation has not been established in the way Inuit people did. And so we believe that by trying to help people reconnect to their culture, has become a difficult thing and requires an Aajiiqatigiingniq group to help try to establish and make sure that we are helping and not doing more damage, as opposed to trying to just run a program without the help of elders. The other way that we want to promote and have always promoted was to use Aajiiqatigiingniq as a research component for people coming from the south, so that with Aajiiqatigiingniq, the way we're looking at it, has to have the Inuit culture absolutely in mind. And by trying to have the research people come around and understand how Aajiiqatigiingniq has, if they're able to use it, it would immediately, first of all, benefit us that are being researched. In the past, we have been in research where one of the most researched people in Canada, if not the world, but none of that research has ever come back to help us. And we feel that by having Aajiiqatigiingniq as a part of the method of research, then we know our interests will be also included.
Hi, I'm Shirley Taralik, and I'm with the Board of Directors for the Aajiiqatigiingniq Society. And I've been working with Joe Karitak on the research around Aajiiqatigiingniq. So one of the areas that we've been particularly focused on is defining Aajiiqatigiingniq as an actual research methodology. People talk about Aajiiqatigiingniq as a consensus method, but when you look at the traditional methodology of consensus building, it's actually quite different from the Aajiiqatigiingniq framework. So I'm going to briefly describe it, but then I'd like you to take a look at the framework that we've produced, which is available on the aajiiqatigiingniq.com website. So some of the things that really jumped out at us when we were working with elders documenting and researching the process of Aajiiqatigiingniq was that any use of Aajiiqatigiingniq required that there actually be an outcome, there be an application that came out of the process that would lead to improving the lives of the people who were engaged in the process. And as Joe just indicated, this is something typically in our relationship with research that Nunavummiut have not experienced. People mine the brains of Inuit for knowledge and then take it away, and we never hear about it again. So for Inuit would describe this as not being knowledge, because knowledge must improve the lives of people. It must have a direct application. Aajiiqatigiingniq begins with a place of building a shared understanding. So it requires that people come together, discuss a topic, and that there is agreement or an understanding that develops from a discussion, so that people all understand. If they don't have the same opinion, that's fine, but they need to understand what the issues are, and they need to be respectfully aware of the various perspectives that come to that issue. So that's the very beginning. And it's not until you have those discussions and you have that shared understanding of an issue that you can really then begin to address the issue. Once you have that shared understanding, it's raised the consciousness of people about that issue. And so now they're better prepared to give you good information about their own perspectives or their own opinions on that issue. If you ask them to give you that information without having that collaborative discussion, Inuit especially will back off and say, I'm not an expert, or they'll give you the very minimum because they don't want to appear to be an expert. They don't want to put their opinion out there before they've had this discussion that actually allows them to share their opinion in a way that doesn't make them look like they're speaking from a place of authority, because shared leadership is very central to the Inuit way of being. When you're approaching your research, it's therefore very important to not rush past that step of where you're promoting an issue. So it's very important to do the work where you raise the topic that you're wanting to discuss, and you build an understanding collaboratively so that people begin to look at the research coming from the same place. This gives people permission, in a way, to talk about their own perspectives without making themselves out to be an authority or somebody who's speaking out of turn. The whole process of Aajiiqatigiingniq is that through discussion you are collaboratively seeking solutions. But it's not required that everybody reach one opinion. So although it's described as a consensus building process, for Inuit, consensus is not required. A thorough discussion of the topic is required, but everybody is respected for their opinion, and everybody is allowed to maintain their opinion. What is required from the process is that there's an agreed to outcome. So there must be an application that is going to lead to some improvement in the lives of people on the ground. And so those steps are the most important critical steps in the Aajiiqatigiingniq research methodology. So we're going to stop here, and we're going to ask you to go onto the aajiiqatigiingniq.com website and look at the research methodology that is there, and take some time to have a bit of discussion amongst yourselves and consider how this approach might be different from a consensus methodology that you've used in the past or that you know about, and to think about how this approach might impact this particular piece of research that you're going to be doing.
One of the things that we like to promote Aajiiqatigiingniq is, if you're trying to use Aajiiqatigiingniq, is that it has to be grounded on Inuit Maligalyot, meaning that everything has to be conducted in terms of these 4 key points. And one of them, what Inuit call our very important laws, is that you always have to keep working for the common good, and this is to everybody. So that's one. The other one that we've been promoted to, and because we have to live in multiple seasonal throughout the year, in 1 year, and there's at least 6 different seasonal activities that we have to use throughout the year up here, and each one is so different from the other season. And this is something that's quite unique, I think, for people. Most of the time, I think, in a different economy system, every day, it doesn't matter if it's winter or summer, fall or spring, if you have a job, that's what you go do each day. And that if you look at the Inuit calendar year, if we could say, is all based on harvesting, hunter-gatherer system. We're always having to plan ahead before the next season, what we call next seasonal change, is going to come around. So right now it's September. What we're doing in September is a very busy part of our year because we're trying to prepare to do well the rest of the winter. But what we're doing is trying to gather caribou meat for us that are primarily caribou meat eating group. By preparing well, it ensures a better future. So we're always having to prepare, continually planning, keeping all of the full year in mind as to what activities we're going to come across. And in order to work well together, Inuit have always tried to promote being respectful to each other. And also from an Inuit perspective, because you got to think holistically, and we rely heavily on the environment for our well-being, we have to be also respectful of the land, water, and the species, animals which we harvest, along with the climate. The other one that we have to promote all the time, and Aajiiqatigiingniq is something that is trying to do, is maintain harmony and balance. One of the things Inuit have always believed is that our well-being has an influence on how well we're going to do in the future. For instance, if you are not in harmony and balance, and even though you think you're the only one being affected, Inuit people believe that you could affect the rest of the community, where a game can become difficult, weather can become difficult, by having one person not being in harmony and balance. And this is something that's quite unique, I see, in different cultures, where the whole society is also paying attention to each individual to make sure they're in harmony and balance, because it just takes one of us to throw this off. And so harmony and balance is a very important concept. And so everybody's well-being has to always be monitored. And when it doesn't look like someone's in their harmony and balance is off, then Aajiiqatigiingniq is something that they would often use to make sure and ensure that harmony is back to being the way it is.
So these four maligaya are central to Inuit Aajiiqatigiingniq, and if you're interested in finding out more about them, there is a short video on the National Collaborating Centre of Indigenous Health website at nccih.ca. It's from a book on determinants of health, and in that short video we describe in more detail what those four, the impact of those four maligay. But what I'd like you to do now is to divide into four groups, and each group is going to be assigned one of the maligay, and I want you to think about that maligay in terms of your research. So as you're preparing to do this research, think about two things. Think about the invitation that you are giving to prospective participants, and also think about the research questions. We talked earlier about research fatigue in Nunavut. If you want somebody to participate, and to participate well in your research, then there has to be value added for them. There has to be incentive. There has to be something at the end of it. They have to know that there's going to be a concrete action that is going to improve the lives of Nunavummiut because of your research. So is that articulated in your invitation? Is that evident through the kinds of survey questions that you're asking? So I want you to work in your individual groups, looking at the particular maligay that you've been assigned, and look for these aspects. How are you going to show people through the invitation that you're going to be giving them that this project is leading to work that's going to improve the common good? How is this project going to improve harmony in communities? How is this project going to be respectful of Inuit and of Inuit ways of being, Inuit Aajiiqatigiingniq? And how is this project going to serve to plan and prepare people for a better future? So think of those four things. Divide yourselves into groups. You'll each be assigned one of those maligaya, and consider what you can be doing to improve your invitation and to improve your survey based on the maligay that you've been assigned. Good luck.